You've probably heard the word blockchain thrown around a lot, right? Usually it's tied to things like crypto or maybe digital art. But the real revolution here isn't just about digital money. It's about completely rewiring one of the oldest ideas in society, trust. So today, we're going to break down exactly how it all works.
You know, in our day-to-day lives, we put a ton of trust in institutions, banks, governments, you name it, to be our guardians. But here's the thing. Those institutions are run by people, and people, well, we're not perfect. That begs a really important question, right? If we need these guardians to protect us, who's watching them?
And this is where blockchain comes in with a totally different idea. Instead of asking us to trust people or big institutions, it asks us to trust a system, one that's built on pure math and code that anyone can check. It's a huge shift from a world where we just assume our guardians are trustworthy to a world where that trust is constantly being verified by the system itself.
So how in the world does a system build trust? Well, the research we're looking at points to 3 core ways it does this. Let's start with the first one. It redefines who or what we actually trust. It's all about moving our confidence away from human middlemen and putting it into the math that runs the show.
This quote from a project investigator pretty much nails it. Moral hazard. That's just a fancy way of saying there's a risk someone might do the wrong thing because they know they can get away with it. The whole point of blockchain is to basically engineer that human risk right out of the system using pure math and code.
And the bedrock of all this mathematical trust is something called cryptography. Now, this is way more than just a password. Think of it like a unique, impossible-to-forge digital fingerprint for every single transaction. It lets 2 people prove who they are and what they're doing to the entire network. And you don't need a bank in the middle to say, yep, they're good for it.
Okay, so this difference in how things are set up is absolutely key. A traditional system is centralized. Everything runs through one main hub, like a bank's server. If that one point gets hacked or goes down, well, the whole thing is in trouble. But a blockchain is decentralized. The data is copied and spread out across thousands of different computers. That means there's no single weak spot, and no one person is powerful enough to control the whole network.
Okay, so the math makes sure we can trust the actors on the network. But what about the things they do, their actions? That brings us to our second mechanism. To really have trust, we need to know that everything that happens is recorded perfectly, and this is the important part, that it can never be secretly changed later.
The way it works is actually pretty brilliant. First, you propose a transaction, say sending money to a friend. Then, all these independent computers around the world, they're called nodes, they all race to confirm that your transaction is legit using those crypto rules. Once enough of them agree, your transaction gets bundled up into a block, which is then permanently chained to the public record for all to see.
You know, one of the developers in this study put it perfectly. Think about a company's financial books. But instead of just one accountant working in a locked room, imagine there are thousands of accountants, all looking at the exact same set of public books, all at the same time. If one of them tries to cook the books, everybody sees it instantly. That's what stops fraud.
And here is the absolute kicker. Once a block gets added to that chain, it is there for good. It gets time-stamped and basically cryptographically superglued to the block before it. This creates what's called an immutable record. That means it can't be edited, it can't be deleted. It is a permanent public history of every single thing that has ever happened on the network. All right, so we've got trust in the actors and we've got trust in their actions. That brings us to the last big piece of the puzzle, trust in assets. I mean, in a digital world where you can copy and paste anything a million times, how can you possibly prove you own the one true original? Well, blockchain has a fascinating answer for that. The answer is something called tokenization. Just think of it like creating a one-of-a-kind, unforgeable digital certificate of ownership for something and then locking that certificate onto the blockchain. This is the big idea behind NFTs, non-fungible tokens. That token can prove you own anything from a piece of digital art to even a house in the real world. So what does this actually let us do? Well, it unlocks some really cool things. For starters, you get undeniable proof that something exists and proof of who owns it. But it also lets us automate things using what are called smart contracts. These are little bits of code that just run themselves when certain things happen. For instance, a smart contract can be programmed to automatically pay a royalty to an artist every single time their work gets sold.
And this whole idea of code that runs itself leads to something pretty powerful. The network itself can act like a trusted third party, like an escrow agent.
Normally, you'd have to pay a lawyer or a bank to hold on to money until a deal is done. With smart contracts, that human middleman might just become obsolete.
I mean, listen to how this DeFi co-founder puts it. The system is totally automatic and completely impartial. The code holds on to the assets and only lets them go once all the pre-agreed rules are met. The buyer gets what they paid for, the seller gets their money, it happens at the exact same time. They don't have to trust each other, they just have to trust the code.
Okay, so we've gone through the tech, trusting actors, actions, and assets. But so what? Why does any of this matter in the real world outside of all the tech jargon? Let's get into the actual implications of being able to literally engineer trust.
Take online ads. It's kind of a black box, right? It's super hard to track where all that money is actually going. But if you put that supply chain on a blockchain, every single ad impression, every click becomes a verifiable transaction on a public ledger. That could slash fraud and make sure the people creating content and the people paying for ads are actually getting a fair deal.
Or how about your own privacy? Imagine you need to prove you're over 21 to get into a website. Right now, you might have to upload a picture of your driver's license, showing your name, your address, your exact birthday, all this extra info. With a blockchain ID, you could just provide a simple mathematical proof that says, yes, this person is over 21, without revealing any of that other sensitive data. You stay in control.
And for artists, musicians, writers, all kinds of creators, this is, and we've already touched on this, an absolute game changer. It gives them a way to prove true ownership over their digital work. It creates a transparent history for that work, showing where it's been. And like we said, it can make sure they get paid royalties on their art forever, not just on the first sale.
So at the end of the day, it all comes back to this. Blockchain isn't really about getting rid of trust altogether. That's a common misconception. It's about building a brand new kind of bedrock for it. One that's more transparent, more verifiable, and a whole lot less dependent on humans who might make mistakes. It's trust, but engineered for a digital world.
And all of this leaves us with one last massive question to chew on. For centuries, we've built our most powerful institutions for one main reason, to act as our guardians of trust. But if that very function can now be automated, spread out across the globe, and literally written into code, what does that mean for the future of those institutions? That's the core question this technology is forcing all of us to think about.